Finally, I just had enough. In fact, it was I made the decision one night. That's what I call my final ambush. I got ambushed pretty bad one night, and I thought, man, if I get out of this one, this is it. Because, you know, I was like getting 40, I was 47, 48 at the time, married, kids, and...
You got ambushed by who? Where?
Taliban. Yeah, Afghanistan.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I've been ambushed a lot. But the final, this was
the final ambush?
Yeah, the reason this was the final for me was, you know, usually what happens is you drive along, you move along, you get ambushed, right? And then you either fight back or you run away. And so in this scenario, we actually got boxed in. We were on a road that was along the very deep and a very fast-moving river. And then on the other side was nothing but mountains. And then we had one road that paralleled the river, running south to north, north to south. And there was about a 7-kilometer stretch that the Taliban owned, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, they were hitting like logistics trucks all the time. You know, there's burned out hulks everywhere.
Yeah.
But anyways, we had to go through there, and we had to do a link up with another one of our elements coming from south to north. Well, they were running late, and we ended up stopping kind of at a halfway point, and we were literally sitting on the X for the Taliban. And they're on the radios. We could hear them because we got our interpreters on the radios listening to them, to the chatter. Mm-hmm. And so they had set up 2 IEDs and 2 ambush sites on both ends of the convoy. We had 23 vehicles, and they had boxed us in. And so we could hear what they're strategizing. We could hear the commander talking to his guys what they're going to do. Actually, what they were going to do is run between the vehicles, so we're in a crossfire. And they had already selected the vehicles they wanted to take because they wanted to grab all the guns off of it and stuff. So they're pretty good at that kind of stuff. And so we're stuck in this site. We had already split an element off. About 10 vehicles had gone further south to meet this other element. On the way back, they got ambushed, took casualties, and they made it back. We started doing our triage and giving medical aid and things like that. And then we realized, okay, we got a choice, guys. We either drive south or north, but either way, we're going through ambush, right? So we're going to be fighting out of this one, and which is crazy, right? You usually don't drive into an ambush deliberately to get out of it, right? But we had no choice at this point.
Right.
So we're like, all right, we're going to turn the vehicles around, face them north. We had basically 23 Toyota Hilux pickup trucks. Some of them were up armored, you know, but most of them were thin skinned. And we had, you know, each vehicle had about 5 dudes on it, guys on the back with heavy machine guns. So 23 vehicles, and we were spread out about 50 meters per vehicle. So we're doing a little over a kilometer, over a half a mile, 3/4 of a mile spread out. And the road was a really bad road. It was just bumpy, dirt road, rocks. Mm-hmm. About max speed you could attain was about 5 miles an hour. It was just a really rough road, right? It's not like the highway. And so we get the vehicles turned around. We had already called for air support. Only thing we could get was one Apache H6. And he had already expended all his ordnance supporting the element that was in contact already downrange from us. And so he called bingo, which means he's out of ammo, right? And had to go down further south, refuel, refit. And then we were waiting for him to come back and escort us going back north. And what we're going to have him do is strafe the road in front of us and just start clearing the sides of the road. And then we're just going to start beating feet up the road. And but what's funny was the Taliban commander was telling his guys to sit fast. He goes, and he knew what we're doing. He goes, they're waiting on the helicopter to come back. Oh, they already knew all this stuff, right? And normally when they ambush you, it's a long distance ambush. They, 50, 200 meters, 250 meters, 300 meters from afar, usually plunging fire. In this case, they were right on top of us, like within 50 meters. And that was their plan was, as soon as a helicopter comes in, get right on the road because he's not going to strafe the road with the vehicles there, right? So they'll negate his capability, and then they're going to jump between the vehicles and cause a crossfire.
Are we in like a city area with a lot of buildings?
No,
you're
out
in the middle of nowhere.
Very in the middle of nowhere. Way out in nowhere.
Remote.
Yeah,
okay.
In the mountains of Afghanistan, Pakistan, on the border there.
Okay.
Along a place it's called the Kunar River.
Okay.
And pitch black, and so we got it all figured out. Okay, guys, 50 meter spread. Once the H comes in, we'll execute. And we had basically, we told everybody, I said me and I had 3 other Americans with us. So it was 4 Americans and about I don't know, maybe 100 Afghans and soldiers. And we said, listen, guys, every truck, run your guns. Shoot at everything and anything that could hide the Taliban behind it, right? And just don't shoot each other, right?
Wow.
So one by one, I remember I was vehicle number 15. And I had
Out of how many?
Out of 23.
23.
And I had all the antennas because I had the command vehicle with the radios in it, right? And I said, which basically says, shoot here, right? Shoot here, command element. Right. And so I'm sitting there and I'm watching through my night vision goggles. The H comes in, he can't do much. And I kind of starts loitering a little bit.
Is it like a countdown before you have to like start going through the ambush? Was it like a...
No, it's just, we waited for when the bird came in bounds. Okay, bird's 10 seconds out, 5 seconds out. All right, execute, right? As soon as he comes in, you start running guns. So the first vehicle takes off and, I'm watching through my night vision goggles and you see freaking rounds and traces going in all directions. Then the second vehicle, then the third vehicle. And you think about it, each one's 50 meters apart. Right, and can do about 5 miles an hour. It's like the march of the penguins, man. It's like one at a time, And I'm sitting there watching this show, and I'm sitting there thinking, Jesus Christ, this is the first time I've ever drove deliberately. And we knew there was an IED waiting for us because there was an S turn on the side on this mountain, and that's where they laid all the IEDs because they hit a lot of vehicles there. We knew they were there. We could hear them talking about it. I was like, shit, we're going to get hit by an ID most likely. So I'm watching them go one by one by one. I had plenty of time to watch and think, it was a good show. And then I remember thinking, man, what if I don't make it this time? And I thought, you know what? I can't be distracted by what ifs. Yeah. And so I remember thinking about my wife, my kids. I saw them each one's face one by one, just flashing from my eyes for a minute. Thought about each one, go down the list, right? Really long list, no. And so, boom, 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 boom.
All the ex-wives too?
Yeah, all the no, yeah. Thought about how much money they're not going to get. Yeah, bunch of bandits, man. Holy cow. Don't get me started on that conversation.
I won't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I killed the moment.
Yeah, but no.
So you're like meditating on all
basically,
your kids.
I just wanted to, what I want to do is just clear my mind so that when I do this deliberate move, I'm not distracted by anything other than business, what I got to do, right? So that's what I did. It's like, all right, get that out of your mind right now. Say goodbye in your mind. Okay, it's over. Now focus on the task ahead, right? So boom, off I go. It's my turn. And I got one Afghan with me in the right side and one in the back seat, my interpreters. Mm-hmm. And I remember the road was so bumpy that I broke the front right strut on my vehicle. And the inside, the tire was rubbing on the inside of the fender wheel well.
Holy shit.
Long enough for it to catch on fire, right? And so I got a front right wheel that's on fire. It's burning. I'm freaking trying to push this thing down the road, at 5 miles an hour. And shit, we're shooting out the windows and cars and stuff like that. But finally, we make it out. And, we get to the other side. We stop. We regroup. I think we lost. We didn't lose, but we had 7 or 9 vehicles get shot up pretty bad. We had several guys get shot in the body armor, get wounded, but nobody was KIA'd on that one. And we're like, well,
wow,
yeah,
that's incredible.
Yeah, we were lucky, right? And then we're listening to the radio, and we could hear the Taliban commander asking the trigger man for the IED. He goes, "Why didn't you detonate the IED?" And he literally told me already, because I couldn't. He goes, they were shooting at everything. I couldn't get my head up behind the log to pull to hit the plunger, right?
Right.
So it actually worked. Just laying bullets down just kept everybody's heads down until we could pass through the gauntlet. So that's why he didn't fire the IED.
Man.
Yeah.
Good God.
But when I got out of it, I was, I kept my word to myself. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna, not because I'm scared, just tired, man. 10 years of just that. Plus, I've been in every conflict from literally 1983 Grenada to the present conflicts, to include Yemen.
Yemen?
Yeah, I was in Yemen as a mercenary. And so at that time, I was just like, I
was talking to Julian the other day. He's like, get him to talk about Yemen. He calls it Yemen like no one else. Some people call it Yemen. Dale calls it Yemen.
Yemen!
Yemen! That's fucking amazing.
Whatever
dude.
it is. The white country, man. Yeah, that was a shit show too. But
so your first, so after that, you kept the promise to yourself and you decided no more combat.
Yeah. So prior to that deployment,